welcome back to the channel and another episode of New Medium Who Dis. In today's video, I am going to be talking about acrylic. This may or may not come out before the episode that I'm going to be doing, the next episode in my horror video series. I have not finished the script on that yet, but it will be coming, so make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on that. If you are a horror movie fan, I'm going to be talking about Scream and mommy issues in the slasher genre, so definitely come back for that. So today, I'm going to be talking about acrylic. If you saw the last video in this series, that is on watercolor. I'm not quite as skilled with watercolor as I am with, I am so sorry, my hands are so freaking dry, having to wash them 24/7 after we ended up with the virus in our house. So, couple things that are essential to start out with. That's how we do this new medium series. Acrylic is not a new medium for me, but it is a new medium for y'all. I mean, I'm self-taught. I didn't go to school, so essentially I am still learning. So the two biggest things for your acrylics are going to be your paints and the canvas or paper you use. Because I'm just doing this for like fun, I just do, they come in all different sizes at Target. The Handmade Modern canvas, it doesn't matter if you go to, Michael's or wherever you can find cheap canvases, but, until you're getting to the point where you're a professional who's going to be, selling your work to galleries, don't worry about spending a lot on your canvas. That's not quite as essential, when you're starting out, when you're, where I'm at, because, this canvas that I'm going to do, I'm actually doing it as a special edition print for Nerdy Crafter Jackie. That's why I'm wearing her shirt today in this video, because the characters that I picked are from My Hero Academia for this pop art style piece that I'm going to do. So I'm only going to be doing prints of this, and then I'm going to be sending the actual canvas of it to Jackie up in Canada. But you will be able to purchase digital prints digital download of this piece when I'm done. So this is the canvas I use. It's not treated or anything, and I don't treat my canvas before I work. I don't know if you're supposed to or not when you use acrylic. I know you're supposed to when you use oil paints, but again, I'm self-taught and I've never needed to, so I just don't. If you find different information that says you should when you use acrylic, then by all means, but this is how I do. So where I start with, so I'm going to do pop art, which is going to be in the style of like this one, Oogie Boogie, my Nightmare Before Christmas series. Any of the pieces that you see up on the walls are going to be available for print. Some of them already are, but they all are eventually going to be available for digital download, so you can print them out and hang them on your own wall if you see something that you like. So what I do is I take, and this canvas is 7x7, so it's going to be 3.5 inches for each square. So I just measure that, and I just use straight graphite. right on the canvas because acrylic will cover it up if you draw light enough, so just make sure you don't put too much pressure down. And you're going to want to make sure you don't put too much pressure down anyway, because as I learned the hard way on the very first canvas I ever worked with, it's very easy to poke through it if you're not careful, and then the poke through parts definitely show up. So light as possible to get and I wish I had a better camera so I could do a top-up view of this, but I figure a new microphone is enough. So as long as I got good quality sound from now on, that should be better. And you know, the video equipment will come later. All right, so what I did when I drew my faces, you can see we have Bakugou, Deku, Ochako, and Todoroki. And when I did Bakugou, I measured, so that's going to be the size that it is. So that will fit right into each of these boxes. And a lot of it requires like holding it up and seeing through and just making sure that it's, you know, lining up properly and all that. That's why I have one of my lights right here, so that I can see. I highly recommend, so once you've got your canvas figured out, I highly recommend getting a black and white set of chalk pastels. This I use to color over on the back, and that's how I transfer the stencil onto the canvas. I don't personally stan a certain brand of acrylic paint. I am not there yet, so you just take my opinions about paint brands, you know, for what they're worth. But what I'm going to start out talking about is actually what got me into acrylic paint in the first place. I bought a set of, so I get all my supplies at Handmade Modern. That's the Target brand. And I have both. I think I have the whole colors, like the whole set that was available. So we are just gonna pick one, and I'll walk you through what it looks like. We have, and you're always gonna want to store your paint markers sideways. That's why I put them in a zip bag. If you store them this way, the paint will pool and might explode out when you go to use it. So, all right, so this is what we have. We have Handmade Modern. And it tells you what color. Onyx. And then it has that, you know, you shake it. And some of them come with a chisel tip, some of them come with a nib, a bullet nib. That's the thing I don't like about these, is that I just put lotion on and these are going to be next to impossible to open. Yeah. It actually appears that this one got stuck by leaking paint. It sure did. You can see that it got leaked a little bit in there and it was stuck on the side. So this one, we got the chisel tip. But you literally just draw on the canvas with these. And this is what I use to do the to do the outline, right? Each of the square boxes there, I will go over those lines in the black acrylic marker, because it allows me to just get the line straighter and more even so that it looks more proper like that. So if you are still, at the point where you're like, I don't know how I feel about acrylic paints, I'm still, a little nervous, definitely consider starting with markers, because that'll help you kind of get used to, how to blend, how to, because blending with acrylics is a whole lot different. But markers will give you a little bit more control over that. As far as regular paint brands, I have 3 brands currently. I don't really feel a certain way about any of them, so I just kind of go back and forth between the brands depending on my color needs. Once you get to the point where you have a better set, my advice is always going to be make sure that you use the same set across colors. Because I have noticed in a few cases that my more professional grade, because none of these are actually professional grade, but the ones that are closer to being professional don't really go well with the ones that are not. So I just think it might be a little bit easier in the long run to not have to worry about whether or not you're crossing brands and having to make sure that everything, blends correctly the same way. All right. So we've got Brea Reese Heavy Body Acrylic. This is a professional brand that I got from Target. And I really like these brushes. These are really good quality brushes. Also, the paint is a little bit, that's the best set that I have. The second best set that I have, I use, I'm sorry, my nose is running like crazy, my freaking allergies. But I also use Folk Art. This is Cobalt Hue Blue. I really like this brand. This is what I use to color this piece, and it's just got really smooth coverage, and it's not streaky, which unfortunately for some reason the Handmade Modern brand, this brand that I picked up from Target that I have, that's what I got my skin tone in. I've got what I call Louise Belcher Pink. I picked this one up because it's azalea, because it's the color of Louise Belcher's bunny ears. I have a canvas that is Bob's Burgers, and a couple of other ideas come in, so I just have a few of those colors, but I'm not as much of a fan of that because it streaks really badly, and my guess is, I surmise that it is because it is satin instead of matte finish. So I think that's what causes all of that streaking. So I am going to go make sure that my kids are taken care of before I get into painting, because that is the thing about acrylic painting as well, is that you really should not sit down to paint unless you know you can paint an entire painting in one sitting, because acrylics dry really quickly, and you don't want to deal with that. So I'm going to go prepare everything for getting this painting started, so I can show you my steps and process, and we will start that in just a minute. All right, so I am ready to start my painting. I've got my line work placed out, and now I'm going to do, so how I usually do it is I do the faces and the background and then the borders, and that kind of, I don't know, it's just a better way to do it. I use my Wonder Woman mug. That's my water mug. And then I always make sure that I have my palettes. I use these plastic ones just because they're easy to clean. I would soak them in mineral solvent when I had it. I don't have it now, that's why they're not clean now. So there's that. But a lot of the times also, if I'm just doing like really small detail work, I'll just take my little detail brush and just right into the tip. That way I don't have to worry about wasting it putting on a palette. I don't know if that's proper or like if it contaminates your paints or what have you, but so far it's been working for me. And then I also always make sure that I have paper towel somewhere around. So I don't usually get my paintbrushes wet beforehand when I do acrylic, but getting it a little bit wet is a good idea. It will just, your paint will smooth easier. So yeah, there you go. So I just get it, stick the tip, because the tip's small, fits right in there. And let's see, I'm going to start with Bakugou. And one of the things that I've learned about acrylics is that you can't be afraid to just slow it down. Slow it down. Don't worry about going quickly. For the time being, slow and making sure that you are getting your lines even and all that is going to be more important for your skills, down the line. So just make sure that you understand and really get used to the idea of, if it takes you 5 seconds to do one line, then it takes you 5 seconds to do one line. If it takes you a minute to do, whatever, then it takes you a minute. Like, you can't be afraid to just, if it takes you 12 hours to do a painting, that would take a different kind of artist less time, so be it. The thing about painting that really was hard for me to accept is that you don't want to make it some kind of competition about how long it's gonna take. I guess I like to say, just leave those challenge videos, leave those challenges up to the people who are doing them for videos, like, the 8 hours, 8 minutes or whatever challenges that I've seen. I know Chloe Rose has done one, Jazza Brooks has done one. every time I mention a YouTuber on my channel, I will always recommend going to these people's channels, especially Chloe Rose, because she is also a self-taught artist. So I feel like if there's anybody who can sort of understand how I feel, you know, and how we all feel, you know, trying to break into this I paused my recording because I don't like the idea of, like, when I hear people outside my door, it, like, wigs me out to, like, think that they're, like, listening to me record. I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm just, yeah, it's very one of my idiosyncrasies. You can see I've got the outline of Bakugou's hair here. But yeah, so as I was saying about Chloe Rose, yeah, definitely follow her for, you know, some extra, you know, she gets it, some solidarity, some, you know. And sometimes I find myself, like, I just get so much lumped up on the brush, I just have to wipe it off. I used to be, like, super, like, oh my god, I can't waste paint, but honestly that's another reason why at this level, if you just focus on your skills and your technique instead of worrying about the paints you're using, then, you know, when you can't afford the paints, then you'll have the skills and it'll be, you know, it won't be quite so much like having to learn an entirely different skill, because I've noticed when I go between my wax-based Prismacolor pencils and the Arteza, I never know how to pronounce that. The colored pencils that I use from that brand, they are also wax-based, but they're not quite as soft as Prismacolor. So, you know, and it's definitely like using two different skills to go through and make sure that, you know, that they're blending properly. There is I mean, and that's why you can find videos, you know, it's not just how to use colored pencil, it's how to use Prismacolor pencil specifically, how to use, you know, this brand of paint specifically, or this kind of clay specifically, because yeah, it's just a matter of making sure that it's gonna, you know, go together, because sometimes, you know, they're not made with the same things, they're not, so yeah, switching between, even if it's technically the same medium, can sometimes involve, you know, different kinds of skills. I'm gonna try to find some good tunes to play over this for the times that I fall out here, since I don't really have the best camera right now. I know, coming Captain Obvious, right? I just didn't want to wait on this video, because the more I feel like there's I wish there was more, like, I'm a beginner and I literally have no idea what I'm talking about kind of videos, you know, about acrylic painting, And so that's kind of what I'm hoping to bring to the table with my video series is, you know, a little bit more of that. I really have no idea what's going on, but we're gonna go on this ride together. And it's really gonna be fun. I'm very excited. So there we go. We got a Bakugou. So I'm going to just walk you through the steps that I would do just to paint to get his face. That way I don't have to bore you with doing the whole project, since I don't have a good camera or good editing equipment yet. So my next is gonna be, let's see, we've got, so normally for filling in faces, I would use a brush that's got sharp edges, like, this is one of my favorite brushes. So the edge there is nice and I can get into the space better. So I'm going to test out here on one of my palettes. So I've got yellow light, and malted milk, and I'm gonna see if I can get these to blend together to be a good color for Bakugou's yellowish brownish hair. Use a different brush to mix. Right. And then I just wipe and, you know, mix as I go. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh God, can't get the colors mixed up. So I'll do a lot of stuff that a lot of people would probably straight up be like, no, don't do that. So I've got this kind of like light mustardy color now that I think will be perfect. I'm gonna get a little bit more of the brownish tint to it. So I think maybe one more scoop of the tan will brown it out a little bit better. Yes. All right. It's perfect. The color is perfect. And actually, it looks to me that it's gone pretty decently together, even though I recommended using the same brand. I'm not getting streaks. I'm getting good coverage. The color is pretty decent. That is always told by going in and doing the fine details. If you can get those details in without streaking it, which it looks like I have. So yeah, I am very pleased with how that turned out. I am kind of shocked that it ended up coming out the way that it did, because, you know, I do most of my work, you know, most of my discoveries are trial by error. I don't really, you know, I learn basics from other YouTubers, but and then I'll show you about going back through and how to, like, you know, work out the, like, if you accidentally, like, go over the edge or out of the lines or whatever. Because that's an important part of acrylic work also is, you know, don't be afraid to slow down, and don't be afraid to go in and fix details until it is to your satisfaction completely. There was a piece that I had where I went over the details. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that it's this sapphic love piece, where some of the details were just, I had to go over it like 5 times to get it looking the way that I wanted it to. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So don't ever feel like, you know, if you have to do that, that means you're doing something wrong, or that, you know, you're not as good. Because trust me, and I know a lot of people using acrylics have to do that, because, you know, it's not super easy to paint and not mess up details, you know, not get out of the lines. And, you know, if you're not that perfect just yet, it's quite all right. Because I'm over here, like, I don't think I'll ever be that perfect. So, there you go. I am super, super proud of this color. Like, I had no idea. This is one of those, like, if you know how colors are supposed to work together, then you can essentially mix any medium and have it look the way you want to. Yeah, paints and mixing paints and blending, acrylics especially, you know, work a little bit differently than pencils, but, you know, when you think about it, yellow is yellow, right? Brown is brown, you know, and they all make certain shades, you know, and it's gonna have like a different finish, I guess, depending on whether or not you use paints or pencils. But for the most part, if I were to mix a yellow and a cream pencil, it would look relatively the same. You're gonna get maybe a little bit of a richer palette with paints, because you can do more precise mixing of your colors and blending and whatever, but yeah, generally speaking, I just don't really see, you know, if you're good with one medium, you can be good with other mediums. And I guess, I don't know, even as a self-taught artist, I'm over here going, I don't understand the fear, I don't understand the doubt, because every major art YouTuber, whoever that I follow, essentially has said the same thing. You know your color theory, you know your composition, you know your figure drawing or your life drawing, you know, it just, yeah, not nearly enough encouragement out there There's a lot of, oh God, this is hard, and, you're not going to be as good. No, there's no such thing as good or not as good, when it comes to I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't understand this elitist attitude about, and it's not that people have an elitist attitude, it's that people really believe that you have to be an elite in order to do these things. And I guess I'm kind of here to say also, you don't have to be, because I am, so freaking far away from being an elite, it's not even funny. But, if you watch my watercolor video, what I'm coming up with on, this acrylic paint, you'd think. But yeah, again, I'm not an expert, I'm not an elite, I have no schooling. I just decided one day, hey, I really like painting. I really like the way acrylic paint looks on canvas. Let's try this. There's so much about acrylic painting that, it's just, let's demystify it. Let's sort of take the elite out of the idea that, you have to be some crazy good expert to be, to get anything out of working with acrylic paint. Because, yeah, again, I say you really freaking don't stick your fingers in your paint like I do. All right, so we are moving on to actually, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take another break. I'm gonna get these sections finished, and then once I get the faces finished, then I'll show you how I go in and do the border lines and the backgrounds, because that really is gonna be the most important part. So stay tuned for that. I'll be right back. So during my break, I finished the canvas. I'm so very excited about how this turned out. I posted a sort of preview picture on Twitter that is getting some really good traction. It still has a little bit of cleaning up to do, but I wanted to come back and show you guys the progress I have so far. We made hot chocolate. It's the last night of Hanukkah tonight. We made hot chocolate, and I'm very thirsty and a little bit not feeling well, so hot chocolate will make me feel better. Yes, definitely. So this is what the canvas looks like. If you want to see the picture of it, you can go to my Instagram, which I will leave in the comments. And you can also find, you'll also be able to find links on my Instagram. Why does that look so... it's my camera. Todoroki's hair looks like it's got a big blob of black right in the middle of it, but it doesn't really. So I want you to see, okay, how we've got nice filled in lines, and then these are still a little, you see, still need to be a little bit cleaned up. So what I do is I take my black acrylic marker. I flung the lid across the room. I don't know why that keeps happening, but it keeps happening. So what I do is I take my black acrylic paint marker, and this is honestly why I love using paint markers, because it doesn't get any better than just being able to draw over because one of the things that majorly scares me away from oil painting is that being that precise with a brush, I don't think is ever going to be something that I am truly like capable enough of, or capable enough with to be able to, you know, complete like a Bob Ross or something. And so, you know, the fact that there exists this method of being able to, you know, get a little bit more precision on my lines without stressing over the use of a paintbrush is just, it's beautiful. I love it. And the only problem that comes with some of this detail work is that the marker doesn't want to give up any paint unless I press, and then sometimes it'll pop and leak a whole bunch of paint everywhere. And that is really the only issue that I've ever had using these markers. And I found pretty quickly ways to sort of maybe not prevent that from happening, but to fix it if it happens, or to sort of like find ways to make it work, like work it into the painting. It happened on the sapphic painting behind me. This one, you can see up close the blob of black paint, and I just decided to leave it because, yeah, it doesn't really look all that bad. So that happened. So it's very much like I just really I'm very much like, oh my god, I don't want to press too hard. And then also, one thing that I've learned is to not be afraid. And this is another reason why I use cheap acrylics, is so that I don't have to be afraid of wasting paint, or like, you know, I don't know if I can afford to mix these colors, you know, just do it. And if you're using cheap products, it doesn't matter. So, you know, there's another argument for not really worrying about your, you know, the expense of your product or whatever, your supplies when you're first starting out. So my daughter came in for one more interruption, but I figured I'd clean up all the lines. So this is essentially the final product. One thing with any kind of painting on canvas, I gotta fill in there, but I always do my edges. Always, 100%. I always take the design around the edges as it will. Some people choose to, do a different color. This is how I do it. So there you have it. The process for doing acrylics is considerably more involved than the process of watercolors. There's more kinds of paint involved. I don't generally use a palette when I'm doing watercolors, because I use my pods. If I'm not using the pods, then I'll use a palette, but for the most part, I don't. Again, a lot of paintbrush sets. I know my I have a set of brushes that are like colored handles, all different types, and they have fiber. They're not like, they're plastic. So these are like, I really like this set of brushes. I think that they've been the best for me so far. They come with, all just the perfect, every single different kind of brush. So that set came with one of these. I got a set of watercolor that came with one of these. I don't particularly care myself. This one is easier to hold. However, I prefer holding my canvas since I don't work with an easel. So that's just depending on what your interests are. So that is the introduction to acrylic. We will see how much better it goes with the new microphone. I think it will sound great, hopefully. So there is that, and my next episode of New Medium Who Dis is going to be about polymer clay. I have done one polymer clay figure that did not turn out super excellent, but I have another idea for another piece to do that I really think would be fun to do a video on. So stay tuned for that. Click subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on a single video, because I am also approaching finished with the script of my next the horror episode. So you're going to want to make sure that you stick around for that as well. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of exploring new mediums, new to me since I'm self-taught artist. Thank you so much for being with me on this journey, and I will see you guys in the next episode.